Welcome to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are very fortunate to have this gentleman on. We've had him on multiple times as a guest. I think it's official. That this is the guest who has been on the most of my show. 2003 World Series main event champion and the latest ambassador for America's Card Room, Mr. Chris Moneymaker. Chris, thanks for joining us once again on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
So essentially that means either one, I'm the only one that's available, or two, I'm popular. I don't know which one it is.
Well, it's definitely the latter. We have done interviews from the beginning, and I'm very pleased and thankful that you wrote the foreword to my book, Poker Satellite Success. There's actually... I don't know if I ever showed you the picture. I've told you about the picture, but there's a picture in here. I'm showing this on YouTube if you're hearing it on the radio, why I'm kind of pointing. But this is a picture from the 2005 World Series. Chris Moneymaker, Greg Raymer, and myself. And this was at the Poker Stars party. And you guys were there. And I remember taking the picture. And I said afterward to my buddies, I go, that'd be a hell of a picture if I won. Right. And then when we got down to 27 players, I said to a buddy, I said, boy, this picture could be something else. You know, it'd be really fun. But obviously, what's amazing to me is back in 2003 when you won. I mean, let's be honest, I was a fan. Like, you know, this is what got me into not poker, but tournament poker. I still haven't gotten. I've actually even brought it to a couple of the venues. You know, the actual CD, which is very funny, right? Who has CDs of these things anymore?
I've still got one somewhere in the attic, I think.
Yeah, and I will always. I remember bringing it to the Atlantis one year to have you sign it, and I just forgot. I mean, I was there the whole damn week with you.
So you brought it all the way down there.
I did. I think I brought it 2 years in a row, and I forgot.
Yeah, we both had kids down there during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I remember, you know, whenever we were down there together, you had your kids, I had my family. I mean,
exactly.
So it definitely wasn't on the forefront.
It wasn't something like I would just be carrying around like that. It's funny too
because
because
your swimsuit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because I remember I think it was one of the first times my wife really realized that what I was doing in the real world was really in the poker media and the poker industry. We were at a buffet breakfast, and my wife and I were coming back to our table, and you were across the way, and I didn't see you, and you were like, "Hey, Bernard, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, hey, Chris, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, good. I'll see you later today." I'm like, "Oh, fantastic." And my wife just turned to me and went, "Was that Chris Moneymaker?" I go, "Yeah." And she went, "Wow, he knows you." And I just looked at her and went, "What do you think I've been doing for the last few years? You think I've just been lying that I just kind of just did?" And it was really very funny. It was like the moment where she really realized.
She actually recognized that you actually do what you do?
Yeah, she was kind of like, wow, he really does stuff in the industry. So I thank you for that.
Can you tell my wife I do?
Yeah, exactly. I'll go across the way. Hey, Chris. So, you know, first, what's amazing is that this is 2021, obviously an incredible, weird time that we are living in. But first, 18 years. 18 years for time has changed. How poker has changed and everything has changed. I've said it in multiple interviews. We aren't here talking. I'm not doing stuff, whether it's radio, my columns, whatever, the new book or whatever it is, without you doing what you do. Can you believe 18 years?
Some days I can believe 18 years. It seems like it's been 40. Other days it seems like it was yesterday. I mean, you know, over the last year, I would say it's definitely seemed a lot longer. It's been obviously a very weird year and a half. But leading up to that, it seemed like time was flying by. But there's been so many changes in the industry and so many things that have happened that can really go back. And as you look back, you can benchmark and be like, okay, it has been 18 years because there's been a lot of changes and a lot of things have happened. And when you look back and think about everything that's happened since that time, I mean, it's really fascinating and almost scary to think, how much we've changed and as an industry and as a game, and people today wouldn't even recognize what we did back in, just as early as when I won, and especially I think prior to that. I mean, could you imagine talking about not having hold'em games and casinos, or having
Right.
that there were no tournaments going on, like you couldn't go just play a tournament because there
Right.
were none.
No
You have to
limit
go.
hold'em cash games. Are you kidding me? What is that? Like,
Yeah,
it's impossible.
you can play limit hold'em, or you can play stud, or you can
Right.
play stuff
Right.
like that. And it's going to be 5-10 limit hold'em, and some variation of stud. That's your choices. Have fun
Exactly.
with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, there's so many things going on, and I remember um, going to San Diego, out of all places, when I was still working, right? So we had a conference there, and after we did all of our work, it was like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I decided, you know what, let me go over and play in these casinos. And they were playing No Limit Hold'em cash games. And I remember calling back to the East Coast and calling Foxwoods, and the original answer was there really isn't that much interest for that. And that, I mean, I'm not blaming Foxwoods, by the way, because at the time it was the truth. It really was. But of course, because of the interest in it's amazing how things have changed. You go to a casino, if there's any other game beside No Limit Hold'em, and obviously PLO is probably there now too. But beside that, if there's any game, stud, a horse, a mixed game, or something like that, beyond the biggest poker rooms, like the Commerce, the Bikes, the Borgatas, the Foxwoods. Beside those rooms, I mean, it's a miracle. I mean, it's honestly a miracle to have those kind of things.
I mean, obviously you'll have it like in the Orleans, but the Orleans, your average age of the players in the game is going to be like 70.
Right,
I mean,
right, right.
there's a joke whenever you sit down at a stud game is they lose players because players die. That's how they
Yeah,
a seat opens
unfortunately,
up.
you're right. Right.
That's how a
Right.
seat opens up.
Yeah.
And every time that I'll go, I like playing mixed games, so I'll go
Yeah,
play a
I do
stud
too.
game every once in a while, and I'll sit there and listen to some of the guys, and they're like, you ruined my life. I used to play stud, and it was so much action, it was so good, and now I can't
That's
even get
funny.
me a game. It's all this no limit horse swoggle. I don't like this no more, and I can't even find a game.
That's funny. That's very interesting to hear that the majority of the world that we live in, it's all about thank you, thank you, thank you, and then you have the other side of the fence that says like you ruined my life. That's really really interesting to hear that. And like you said, the average age, you play No Limit Hold'em at the World Series or pretty much any tournament, you see the average age, right? I mean, it's going to be in the lower range, whatever it might be, whether it's in the 30s or 20s or whatever. But you go to the World Series and you go to a 7-card stud tournament, no, sir. We are the youngins I'm playing in that
It's
tournament.
just another seniors event.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. They just don't have an age limit, but you're right. It is just a seniors event. That's funny.
You
Yeah,
got
yeah.
all the seniors playing, then you have all the guys chasing bracelets, and then you
Yeah.
have a couple other random people in there. But that's going to be your field. It's going to be
Right.
people, that if it's you get some of these super grinders that play a lot of events, those are the days off. They'll go play um, over at the Win, or
Yeah,
play
right.
somewhere else.
Exactly.
They'll play the side event that day. But
Right.
but in the end, that's why when you look at schedules during the summer, you always see the World Series comes out with their schedule first, and then everybody tries to find the holes and
Right.
wins the stud tournaments, wins the
Right.
8 games, and
Right. Right.
put their big events on those days.
Right, right, and then figure it all out. Yeah, it is amazing to watch and see, and all the people that you not necessarily see in the No Limit. The names that were back in the 70s and the 80s. A lot of those names come out to play in these mixed games. It's great to watch. I mean, it's great to see as well. And I mean, I grew up playing stud. Back when Fox was opened up in '92. I played 5, 10, 10, 20 stud. That's what I did. And
Well, if you're
my
from the
buddy,
East Coast, you had
right,
to.
right, exactly. That's what it was.
That's the only thing they had.
My buddy would drive down with me and he would play this game that I didn't understand. And he would talk about it with me, and they would have a lot of community cards, and you would only be dealt two cards. And he called it Texas Hold'em. And I said, what the hell is Texas Hold'em? And he would describe it, and it was limit, obviously, back then. He would describe it to me as we were driving down. And I just went, that's it? You only have two cards? I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, how can you make that much of a difference with just two? It's funny. It's just funny.
We played, how we started playing poker was in home games. We would play Chase the Queen, Midnight Baseball, AC
Right,
Deucey,
right, right.
all these wild
Follow
card
the
games.
jack, follow the queen. Yeah.
Yeah, but where you're matching the pot, so the pot gets bigger. But we've always played dealer's choice, and a buddy went down to Tunica and played Texas Hold'em down there. And again, it was limit. There was no such thing as no limit. And back then you couldn't check raise either. Check in raising was not allowed. It was written on the wall. So that's another thing that people can't quite believe. But
Right,
so
right.
he would bring back the game, and then when it was his turn to deal, he would want to play Texas Hold'em. So we would play 1-2 Texas Hold'em, and everybody we all divined to playing to we're just going to fold because this game sucks. So, and whenever it was his deal, we would basically give him $3
Yeah, yeah.
to go to the next game, so we just didn't have to play his game.
That's funny.
Yeah, because it was so boring to play because we wanted to get back to the match the pot games.
Yeah. That's fun. It's a crazy world. That's how it all is. And obviously, when they were trying to figure out the World Series main event, it was between Texas Hold'em No Limit and Deuce to Seven No Limit. And so, again, how the world would have changed if that happens. It's amazing how everything had to just perfectly line up, right? Everything had to. And what's also for me was very interesting with regards to you. Like, so I have always found it interesting of how, even though you are Chris Moneymaker, even though you're the 2003 World Series main event, and you can play in pretty much any event that you have, and you have, by the way, I mean, it's not like you haven't played in these big events. You're always welcome, and you're always happy to play in lower buy-in events, whether at the World Series or whether it's at one of the Moneymaker Tour events, or your latest victory. Was over a year ago because of obviously COVID, but it was just as we were shutting down in Tunica. It was the Run Good Pro Bounty event down in Tunica, and you enjoy. Why do you enjoy so much still playing these lower buy-in events? I see you a lot of times, even on the at the World Series, the nightly event. It's only a couple $100, but you're playing in this nightly event.
Well, the nightly event, I busted the earlier event, so I got to play something. No, but honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, these events are fun. Poker's supposed to be fun, and while I could go play the bigger buy-ins, I mean, if you play those all the time, they just get old and dry. People are just sitting to listening to headphones. No one's engaging. It's all business, if you will.
Right.
And you go play a $300 buy-in or a $500 buy-in, or whatever it is under 1,500. Generally, people there are it's a relief from work. It's something for fun. It's not something that obviously you're going to have your grinders, you're going to have your guys that are trying to make a living at it, but a lot of the players are recreational players. They're having a good time. So one, the field's softer, which makes it obviously more desirable, but two, and the most important thing for me, is there's just a lot of fun going on, and it's a lot of conversation, and I feel like that's where my player base is. That's where my fans are. I've never felt like if I went to a 25K buy-in that I'm going to have people coming up and be like, this is a cool experience.
Right.
These guys have done it. That they do it every day with pros all the time. It's not a big deal. But when I go play a 350 at a local casino, I can give a guy a story that he's going to have for the rest of his life. Right. And then, so that to me is more my speed. Now, obviously since we've had all this stuff going on with COVID, I haven't played a live tournament since January of last year. I'm playing a lot bigger online because it doesn't matter if you play a $50 online or $1,000 online. You don't get the same interaction with players.
Right.
I'll play some smaller stuff online every once in a while, and you'll get some people in the chat and, hey, great playing with you or whatever, but it's not the same.
Right, right. You're not literally talking with them, interact. You're just kind of a screen to a screen.
Right.
They
Just like that.
must. Right. I mean, they must at the World Series or anywhere, right? I mean, even at a run good event. I mean, a run good event is still different because they kind of hype it up that you're coming, et cetera. So they know that you're going to be there. But there must be some nightly events or some daily events, deep stacks at the Rio, where you sit down and people look and go, "Is that really you?" Like they must think like you look a
Almost
lot like Chris Moneymaker.
well, almost every time, yeah. But see, I would say, Raymer plays the smaller events too there too. So like we would be the only two people over there that would kind of be known that'll play over there. Every once in a while, you would see someone else pop in, but for the most part, um, me and Raymer would be busting out of the other events, I guess, early enough that we'd be able to play the daily, and yeah, it was always a big kick. And I know that every time I sat down at a table, be a lot of autographs, a lot of talking, a lot of um, you know trying to take shots at me, trying to bust me, and everybody wants that story. So you just got to be
Right.
prepared to call down pretty light.
Yeah, yeah. Talk. You just briefly mentioned it, and I'd love to talk with you about this. This has been an unbelievable year, unfortunately. It's almost a full year, right? In March of last time, this is basically what happened with the NBA shutting down and the announcement of Tom Hanks, et cetera, et cetera. So
I mean, I think it was
describe.
exactly at this time because you have
Yeah, it
the
was
NCAA tournament starting, and that's
right.
when they canceled everything. Like,
Right. March 12th was the official day the NBA shut down. So tell us a little bit about what your life has been. We'll obviously get to the exciting news that you announced a little while ago with regards to America's Card Room, but beyond that, like what's kind of been life like for you?
well, I shut down a little bit earlier than most because I don't know, I was reading a lot of the news about the virus and stuff, and I actually told my wife back in February we need to start stocking up and be prepared for a shutdown, and she sort of responded like you're crazy, but she's like, okay, well, we'll do it and just be. So we went out and bought tons of toilet paper and
Well, there you go.
we were, thank goodness we didn't have any of the issues that a lot of people had. Um, but so when things started shutting down, I mean, obviously we just sort of stayed at home, and kids got put out of school, so it turned into essentially my wife was a stay-at-home teacher slash mom trying to educate the kids. At the time the schools weren't doing a whole lot because they had, this is all brand new, they
Right.
didn't have curriculum set up for remote learning, so like everybody else in the world we're trying to figure out what are we supposed to do here? We have 3 months left of school, and there's really not a whole lot of set procedure on what we're going to do. So, in the very beginning, it was just like, okay, we got to have some kind of. I would say in the very beginning, it was we stayed up late and we didn't really have a schedule, and we were like, you know what, it's a weird time in the world, let's do whatever. And
Right.
then we started trying to get into some kind of routine. I will say that in the first couple months, it was a ton of anything that I ever told my wife I don't have time to do, I had time to do. So we took care of a lot of just stuff around the house. We
Right.
tore stuff up, we reorganized, again, anything that was on the list that we had been wanting to do that just we couldn't get to, it was taken care of during that time. Um, and then I started playing online again. Before the pandemic, online poker, I don't want to say it was dying, but um, you could see
It was it was
there's
stagnating,
it
right? I
was
mean, right.
stagnating.
Yep.
Exactly. There wasn't any growth. There wasn't, opportunity. And one of the things that I realized, I'm at the time, I'm still with Poker Stars, and I'm in Mississippi slash Tennessee.
Right. At that time you were still with Poker Stars, right?
Right.
Yep. Hmm.
And so I couldn't play online really. I mean, you can't play on Poker Stars from where I was. I wasn't traveling to go play poker. So, what am I going to do? I got to find, I got to earn money. I got to
Right.
support a family. Uh, so I started looking around, and I started playing on, some of these apps, and I found a, card room at America's Card Room and started playing on that. I'd played on it once or twice before, but started playing on that more consistently. And it came into a routine where I would be playing on America's Card Room. My wife would be doing homeschooling. Um, and that sort of became our routine at, time around like June, July. probably 3 or 4 months into the pandemic, and we spent a lot of time out by the pool, just hanging out. We just avoided people for the most part. We're still kind of doing that, although I
Right.
do have like 15 people in my house right now. But um, outside of that, we're still avoiding people.
How is it, I mean, depending on the states, right? So like for where I am in Massachusetts, it's very mask oriented. You can't, I mean, literally, when I tell certain people in certain states, like you can't walk into a store without a mask. I mean, that's a given. It's not like certain stores, like because the owners are being restricted. No, you cannot walk anywhere. You really, people are walking out of their cars if they don't have a mask on. People kind of look at them funny. Whereas I know that I'm not picking on the state. I just know because I've talked to people in that state. In Florida, it's not that way. You walk into a restaurant, no one who's cooking behind there at certain restaurants are wearing a mask and they're just handing you food. There's not plexiglass everywhere where we see. What's it like where you are?
COVID doesn't exist here, obviously.
And this is Mississippi, right? So
Yeah,
you
this
you
is
live in Mississippi,
Mississippi
right?
or Tennessee. I'm right on the border
Yeah,
of Tennessee and
right.
Mississippi, and basically there's no COVID in this area.
Wow.
We don't believe in we just lifted the entire mask mandate, so we're 100% open, no restrictions, no nothing.
Really?
Yeah, so we can operate full capacity with no masks. I mean, it's like nothing ever existed here. They just basically opened up the entire state, and so yeah, I guess we just don't have COVID, but
That's
we're
unbelievable.
we're very fortunate, I guess. But in reality, us as our family, we're not really changing a whole lot. We're trying to keep the same protocols. We mask when we go out and try to keep our distance and do everything that you're supposed to do by the scientists. I'm actually getting my first dose of vaccine here this
Oh,
month. So
good. Good
yeah,
for you.
I'm excited about that. My wife's not so happy about it. She doesn't want to do any vaccines. She's not a big believer in the vaccine, but
Oh, really?
she gets sick from the flu shot. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
where I'm, I put on like 60 pounds during the quarantine period. That's the bad thing of, like with we'll get into it in a minute, but I got a new sponsor and they want me to take pictures. And like I sent them some pictures, like, can we do them again with you less fat? Essentially, like, yeah, can we get better pictures? Like, I fix fat.
Hey, listen. There's apps for that. They got a little shrink your face.
They actually sent me a Photoshop picture of myself, and it was so bad. And they're doing my avatar.
That's great.
And they sent me pictures of my avatar. I'm like, okay, can we use my avatar from before the pandemic, please? This is yeah.
That's been.
So it's inspired me. I would like to say it's inspired me to lose weight and to get into shape. When in reality, I'm trying a little bit better, but there's so many strides I still need to make. But
yeah,
I'm still not to where I need to be on it.
Yeah. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk with Chris about his new venture with America's Card Room when we return here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.